The federal government is trying to help first-time homebuyers buy a property by allowing a 30-year amortization period on insured mortgages on new-built homes. We'll go through the latest announcement, what it means for first-time homebuyers in Canada, and how this will affect Saskatchewan, and where I think the government missed the mark.
This is the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast.
Welcome back to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast, your home for all things Saskatchewan, all things real estate. There has been mounting political pressure on the federal Liberals to do something about the Canadian housing crisis, and we finally have some changes coming to the Canadian mortgage landscape. Although as we go through this episode, I'll explain why this news is not going to be a big benefit to a large portion of the country. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland made the announcement that the federal government will allow 30-year amortization periods on insured mortgages for first-time home buyers on new-built homes, and this change will come into effect on August 1st, 2024. So essentially what this means, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're purchasing a property with less than a 20% down payment, and the property itself is going to be less than $1 million and is built brand new, you would have the ability of, instead of using a 25-year amortization to pay the loan off, you now use a 30-year amortization. This gives the borrower a little bit of a monthly break because the monthly payment itself is going to be lower because of the time the mortgage has to be paid off on is now extended. This is going to help those specific borrowers with monthly cash flow. One of the major issues with this announcement is that many properties that fit this criteria are nowhere near the major centers where housing is most needed. This isn't going to help home buyers in major centers buy a property like Toronto and Vancouver. If you have properties above $1 million, it can no longer be an insured mortgage. And if borrowers are able to come up with a 20% down payment, they already have access to a 30-year amortization. Now, if we look at this news at a local level, this is absolutely going to give first-time home buyers a little bit more flexibility. However, the shift in policy is going to be for specific borrowers who in the first place could afford to look at new built homes, and there might be a small contingent of people who are now looking at existing built properties who could increase their mortgage amount a little bit and take a peek at these new built homes. This, in my opinion, is going to have a positive effect on the supply of new homes being built here in Saskatchewan. If you have more borrowers who can qualify for these properties under the new rules, you'll see a higher demand and thus more buildings being put up. The downside of increasing demand on these types of properties is you are going to see higher prices as there's going to be more borrowers competing for these specific types of home. Now, if I was the finance minister and I had the ability to create policy and a 30-year amortization was something I was flirting with, I would give a 30-year amortization to all buyers of primary residence homes. It's silly to me to create all of these different categories. If the intention of this change is to make housing more affordable, it should not just apply to a specific type of property and borrower. This would help monthly affordability and help buffer the effects of inflation. The flip side of this argument is the longer you stretch the amortization, the more buying power you give to consumers, the more this is going to drive house prices up. I do think this should create more demand for new built homes, which, as I said earlier, should then turn to create more supply, which is something that is desperately needed across the country. What do you think? Is an increase to the amortization a solution to Canada's housing issue? If not, let me know in the comments what else should be done. If you're a first-time home buyer in Saskatchewan and you're curious how these new rules will affect you, feel free to book a call in my calendar in the description of this video. I can run the numbers for you and show you how a 30-year amortization payment compares to a 25-year if you're buying a new built home. If you found value in this episode, please hit the like and subscribe button. It is greatly appreciated. Until next week, I'm Ron Caroni, your Saskatchewan mortgage professional. Bye for now.